Hello there everybody and welcome back to Movie Squirm. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 2022 film She Came From the Woods, although this is technically released this year, so it should be a 2023 film. I really hate it when movie studios do this. They release a 2022 film all the way later in the year. I mean, it's June now and still have 2022 on there. But oh well, that is just a personal gripe of mine. And this is directed by Eric Blomqvist and stars William Sadler, Cara Buono, and Claire Foley. This tells the story of a group of camp counselors who lift the curse from the camp's past and are hunted down one by one. Man, I do love a good slasher film set in a summer camp. It's such a great location. Some of my favourite horror movies of all time have come from being set in a summer camp. Friday the 13th franchise, of course, one of my personal favourites, The Burning. I just think it's a great location. It gives off a sense of isolation and it's just a fun environment to be around in, isn't it? I mean, even the latest Fear Street trilogy that we got on Netflix, the second one, Fear Street 1979, I believe it was. Even that was set at a summer camp and it was the best one, mainly because of that. So this one seemed right up my street. So what did I think of She Came From the Woods? And this did give me a feeling that it was paying homage a lot to Friday the 13th with its story. Like I said in the synopsis there, a long curse that was put on the camp years ago is back and it's coming after the camp counselors for revenge, basically. Kind of like Jason does, after being drowned all them years later. But it also tried to set the vibe of that 80s style, mullets ahoy, really campy uniforms, and it's set in 1987, which kind of gives it away. But this movie definitely felt like it had more supernatural elements going for it compared to the Friday the 13th franchise. I know a boy coming back from drowning years later is supernatural enough, but this one seemed to have a lot of dark magic involved. There was this possession type deal going on, and it brought out some of the movie's best moments. One scene that particularly stood out was a bus full of children seemingly being taken over by some entity, each on all of them, and they come together in this little group, really, of sadistic killers, if you like. Or another moment by the lake there where the camp counselors are just like kind of partying before they leave. Something happens in the background there, and it kind of comes for our main characters who are central to the focus of the camera, and you're just anticipating what is to come. You know what's coming, but you're kind of seeing it in the background there, and I kind of like that. I mean, it's had some interesting scenes for sure. And this was a really cool concept, although not the most creative, admittedly. But I really do wish, after watching the movie, that this was just executed in such a better way. But so many things contribute to its failures, and it just makes the story seem very uninteresting, and it just can't have the charm of them 80s movies that it so much craves. We keep hearing from the older characters in this movie who've been around the camp for years that this curse is back, but the performances are just so uninteresting and dull. Now, I'm sorry to compare this to Friday the 13th again, but if you remember Ralph from that movie, the first one, he's not exactly Daniel Day-Lewis, let's be honest, but the way he delivers his lines, and he's saying all these, people who go into the summer camp are doomed and, they're all going to die, and the way he says it, it kind of just gives off that he was putting his heart into that performance, and even though he's not a great actor, it was fun to watch. You actually felt like he was giving this real warning sign. But here, characters just never convinced me that this curse was all that horrifying, and it just didn't invest me into the story. The way it was put across on screen, I was like, oh yeah, there's this curse. Oh well, these don't seem too bothered. Why should I be? There's also some very long, drawn-out dialogue scenes here that just go on for like 10 minutes here and there, and I really just found myself very, very bored at times. And I was like, okay, can we just get to the next kill scene now? I'm all for story and movies, obviously, but man, you gotta make it kind of interesting, half interesting. But these characters are just talking shit most of the time. But even the kills here are just not very well executed. They're not very fun to watch. And you think for a slasher movie, that would be the highlight of the film. But Apart from them two I mentioned before, the kids on the school bus and the part by the lake, that's about as interesting as it gets in the kill scene department. And when it's all finally revealed in the third act, I gotta admit the makeup, the effects and stuff really did take me out the movie. They just weren't very good. I mean, I was already out the movie anyway, but even more now, I was just waiting for the credits to roll. Now, I get this is probably a low-budget horror movie. I couldn't quite find the total budget online, but I'm willing to bet it wasn't very high. However, I've seen low-budget movies really put all this effort in and make it work. They squeeze everything they can, out of what they got to work with. And it feels like She Came Into the Woods was just slapped together with not too much heart or thought. I might be totally wrong there, but it just didn't come off as a very good looking horror movie in my opinion. And most of the characters in this movie for me just weren't doing it for me. I mean, they're pretty much damn terrible. There's no one I could latch on with, no one I could get behind, no one I wanted to be the final boy or girl. I just didn't care. There was only one positive in the character department for me, and that was a guy called Dylan. Now, weirdly enough, as much as I did not like this film, he was one of the most funniest characters I have seen in a movie all year. Maybe even the funniest up to now. And which is really strange in a movie like this because he had me laughing my ass off. Every scene he was in, I looked forward to. I was enjoying the movie when he was in it. But he's not someone I could get behind because he was just this total asshole. Even though the humour was working for me and stuff, I knew he kind of had to die because he was like a bully and he was just horrible to everyone. So I can't really latch on to that guy as much as he was a positive for the movie. So it just totally failed in the character department for me. Not just in a lot of other places. Worst of all, though, this movie just dragged. It's not even that long, but it just went on, and I just could not wait for it to be over. The pacing was awful for this movie, and I'm going to go back to my Black Demon review here, where I said they managed to make a giant shark movie boring, and that's exactly what they did with She Came From the Woods. They made a fun, campy slasher horror movie boring, and to be honest, I actually prefer the Black Demon to this one. That's how bad it is. I'm just going to go ahead and rate this movie now. I'm going to give She Came From the Woods a 3.5 out of 10. Apart from Dylan and two little cool scenes, like I mentioned before, this movie just wasn't working for me at all, and it was just nowhere near as fun as the homage it pays to all them fun camp slasher movies from the 70s and 80s. Okay guys, at the end of these reviews I always like to leave a little fun fact. Now a fun fact for She Came From the Woods is that William Sadler, as well as starring in this movie, was also a producer on the film. Sorry, I just couldn't find any more interesting facts online about this movie, so I went with this one. Okay guys, I hope you all enjoyed this review. If horror content is your thing, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to this channel. What are your thoughts on She Came From the Woods? And if you got any favourite camp slasher movies, let me know down below. Maybe I haven't seen them yet. I'm always up for watching one of them, just not this one on rewatch. So thanks so much everyone, take it easy, and I'll see you all on the next video.